The scent of old parchment and brewing chamomile tea was Elias Thorne's constant companion, a comforting shroud against the harsh realities of the outside world. His small, cluttered study, tucked away in an attic corner of an unremarkable London townhouse, was a fortress of knowledge. Stacks of tomes, many of them banned or long forgotten, towered precariously, their spines whispering secrets in Latin, ancient Greek, and runes even older than the ministry itself. Scrolls unrolled across his mahogany desk, held down by enchanted paperweights that hummed faintly with residual magic. Elias, a lean figure whose academic intensity often overshadowed his youth, traced a complex arithmetic sequence with a quill, his brow furrowed in concentration. His mind, a labyrinth of theoretical magic, was currently fixated on a concept so audacious it made even the most radical transfiguration theorems seem mundane. He was searching for a spell that didn't just deflect, or stun, or even kill, but unmade. A magic that could unravel the very fabric of an existence, permanently, without leaving behind the kind of destructive ripples that had claimed his parents and sister. The memory, like a shard of broken glass, often pricked at him. The emerald flash, the shattering of the protective wards, the sudden, deafening silence that followed. He had been a child, hiding in a magically expanded cupboard, too terrified to move, too weak to fight. Survivor's guilt was a cold ember in his chest, fueling his relentless quest. He, Elias Thorne, was brilliant with theory, a master of forgotten lore, but in a true duel, a confrontation of wills and wands, he was hopelessly outmatched. His hands, though adept at scribing intricate runes, trembled at the thought of truly wielding destructive magic. He sought a cerebral solution, one that required absolute precision, not raw power. A subtle shimmer, like heat haze off a summer road, briefly distorted the air near his hearth. Elias stiffened, his hand instinctively reaching for his wand, tucked beneath a stack of forgotten alchemical texts. But before he could fully grasp it, a familiar, deep voice cut through the silence, rich with an almost musical quality. "My apologies for the unannounced intrusion, Elias. I trust you haven't forgotten your old headmaster." Albus Dumbledore stood by the cold hearth, his half-moon spectacles glinting in the dim light filtering through the attic window. His robes, of vibrant lavender today, seemed to absorb the dust of the room, leaving him an immaculate island in the scholarly chaos. Yet, despite his usual whimsical air, there was a gravity in his gaze that Elias hadn't seen since the darkest days of the First War. Elias's hand froze. "Headmaster Dumbledore," he managed, his voice a little hoarse. "No, sir. Never. But I confess I wasn't expecting company." He gestured weakly at the scattered parchments, a faint blush rising on his pale cheeks. "Especially not you, sir." Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. "Indeed. My visits are typically reserved for matters of considerable urgency. Please allow me to introduce a colleague." He gestured with a long, slender hand towards the shadowed corner behind him. From the gloom, a figure stepped forward. Elias blinked. This wasn't a wizard. He was an older man, perhaps in his late 50s, with a neatly trimmed beard and calm, piercing blue eyes. His attire was utterly alien, simple, sand-colored robes of an unfamiliar cut, cinched at the waist with a plain belt. There was no wand in sight, no traditional magical accoutrements. Yet, there was an aura about him, a stillness that was profoundly unsettling, almost cold. Elias felt an unidentifiable hum in the air around the man, like a distant, silent thrum. "This is Obi-Wan Kenobi," Dumbledore announced, his gaze flicking between the two men. "He has traveled a very long way, in more ways than one, to be here." Obi-Wan offered a polite, almost imperceptible nod. His eyes, though serene, seemed to peer not just at Elias, but into him, assessing something deep within. Elias, who usually felt utterly transparent under Dumbledore's knowing gaze, found this new scrutiny even more unnerving. "Master Thorne," Obi-Wan said, his voice surprisingly soft, with an accent Elias couldn't place. "It is an honor to meet one of whom Master Dumbledore speaks so highly." Elias swallowed, suddenly feeling inadequate. "Master Kenobi," he mumbled, trying to collect himself. "Please have a seat." though I confess I'm entirely bewildered." Dumbledore conjured 2 comfortable armchairs with a flick of his wand, one for himself and one for Obi-Wan, who settled into it with effortless grace. Elias remained standing, leaning against his desk, acutely aware of the dust motes dancing in the sunbeams and the weight of their combined gazes. "Elias," Dumbledore began, his tone losing its usual levity. "The reason we are here concerns a threat even graver than the one you perceive. Lord Voldemort, as you well know, has returned. His power grows, his reach extends. And while we, in the magical world, fight him with our spells and our wits, there are limitations." Elias frowned. "Limitations, sir? We have the most powerful magic known to man." "Indeed," Dumbledore agreed, his eyes distant. "But Voldemort has transcended certain limitations of mortality. His soul, as you might have theorized from your extensive studies of dark rituals, is fractured. Horcruxes, conventional magic, even the most potent, can destroy his body, but not the tethered fragments of his essence. He will always return in some form, so long as those anchors exist." Elias felt a chill. He had theorized about Horcruxes, had seen enough hints in forbidden texts to piece together the grim truth, but to hear it confirmed by Dumbledore himself sent a fresh wave of dread through him. A monster truly immortal. "Which brings us to Master Kenobi," Dumbledore continued. "He comes from a world beyond our own, a world where the very fabric of existence is understood in a different way. He understands a universal energy, a spiritual energy, that permeates all life. We call it the Force." Obi-Wan inclined his head slightly. "A field of energy created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together." His voice was calm, utterly devoid of fanaticism, making the extraordinary claim sound as natural as breathing. Elias stared. "The Force? You mean an actual, tangible energy that isn't simply raw magical potential?" He thought of the subtle hum he'd felt earlier. "Precisely," Dumbledore said. "For many years, Master Kenobi and I have corresponded in secret, exchanging knowledge, sharing our understanding of the universe. We have come to believe that these 2 great energies, wizarding magic and the Force, are not entirely dissimilar. Both draw upon and manipulate fundamental cosmic forces. And we have theorized a new path." He paused, letting the words hang in the air, allowing Elias's brilliant mind to make connections. Elias felt a frantic excitement stirring beneath his usual apprehension. A new path. A convergence. A hybrid spell, Elias breathed, his eyes wide. Drawing on both, simultaneously? The structured intentionality of magic, fused with the raw, universal power of the Force. Dumbledore smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached his eyes. "You grasp it quickly, Elias. Always a pleasure. We call it the conjunction of wills. A spell designed to target and unravel a fractured soul, to sever all ties, to utterly obliterate an essence from existence, leaving nothing behind but peace." Elias felt a surge of awe, followed swiftly by a crushing wave of doubt. "But that's impossible. No one has ever consciously attempted such a thing," Obi-Wan interjected smoothly. "Not in your world, nor in mine, to my knowledge. It requires a unique individual. One sensitive to the subtle currents of the Force, yet deeply rooted in the structured discipline of magic. One who possesses immense focus, a balanced mind, and an unwavering will." Dumbledore leaned forward. "And this is where you come in, Elias. We have observed you for some time. Your unique affinity for advanced magical theory, your pursuit of a definitive, non-destructive solution to Voldemort. And, more importantly, Master Kenobi senses in you a nascent, untamed sensitivity to the Force. A spark that, with guidance, could be fanned into a profound connection." Elias stumbled back a step, hitting his desk. "Me? Force sensitive? But I'm a wizard. And I'm certainly not balanced. I'm a scholar, headmaster. I'm terrible at dueling. I seize up under pressure. My practical magic is barely passable when it counts. I just want to find a solution from a book, not become a weapon." His voice rose with each frantic confession, his past trauma flashing before his eyes, the utter helplessness, the unyielding fear. Obi-Wan's gaze remained steady, compassionate. The Force is not a weapon, Master Thorne. It is a tool. And your self-doubt, your desire for peace, your aversion to destruction, these are not weaknesses. They are indicators of a balanced spirit. They are the very qualities that make you suitable. Dumbledore nodded solemnly. Elias, I understand your reservations. But this spell, the conjunction of wills, is incredibly volatile. If improperly wielded, it risks extreme instability, even self-destruction. It requires not just intellectual brilliance, which you possess in abundance, but also a deep inner peace, a conviction, a spiritual balance that few wizards or Force sensitives ever achieve. It requires someone capable of fusing cold logic with intuitive faith. He extended a hand. You have suffered, Elias. You bear the scars of Voldemort's cruelty. But that suffering has also forged in you a unique perspective, a desperate desire for a lasting peace. You seek a way to ensure no one else suffers your family's fate. This is that way. This is the chance to truly put an end to him, permanently, without widespread destruction. It is the only true solution we have found. The words resonated deep within Elias, touching the core of his purpose. The ultimate spell. A way to avenge his family, not with fire and blood, but with definitive, soul-obliterating peace. The very thought of it was terrifying, yet exhilarating. His intellectual curiosity warred with his ingrained insecurity. Could he truly do this? Could he, Elias Thorne, the reclusive scholar, become the conduit for such immense, untested power? He looked at Dumbledore, then at Obi-Wan. Two legends, one from his world, one from another, both looking at him with an undeniable hope. The weight of their expectation, the immense responsibility, settled upon his shoulders like a physical cloak. What would it entail? Elias asked, his voice barely a whisper, the question a quiet surrender. Dumbledore's smile returned, though it was still tinged with seriousness. A rigorous training regimen, Elias. With both of us. You will learn to wield both magic and the Force as one, to become a bridge between worlds. It will be dangerous. It will be demanding. But it will be worth it. The fate of our world rests on your willingness to try. Obi-Wan rose, his calm gaze meeting Elias's. The path will be difficult, but you will not walk it alone. We will guide you. You have a purpose, Master Thorne. It is time to embrace it. Elias looked at the scattered parchments on his desk, the ancient texts that now seemed insufficient, incomplete. He had searched for a solution in theory and abstraction. Now, the solution stood before him, embodied in a terrifying, magnificent, and very real proposal. He felt a tremor of fear, but also, for the first time in years, a flicker of genuine hope. Very well, Elias said, squaring his shoulders, his voice gaining a newfound, albeit shaky, resolve. Show me. Show me the way of the conjunction of wills. The journey had begun. The sanctuary was a study in harmonious contradiction. Ancient stone walls, imbued with forgotten wards, met smooth, polished plasteel surfaces that hummed with a subtle, alien energy. Sunlight, filtered through a magical dome that mimicked the vastness of space, illuminated tapestries depicting wizarding battles alongside murals of serene Jedi meditating amidst cosmic nebulae. It was a place where two disparate philosophies had found common ground, a silent testament to Dumbledore and Obi-Wan's audacious collaboration. Elias, however, felt anything but harmonious. He felt like a discordant note in a finely tuned symphony. His days quickly fell into a grueling rhythm. Mornings began with Dumbledore, typically in a cavernous chamber filled with whirring celestial globes and glowing runes. Elias, Dumbledore would begin, his eyes twinkling over half-moon spectacles. The conjunction of wills is, at its heart, an act of supreme magical intent. We are not merely casting a spell, we are weaving reality itself. It requires precision, understanding, and an unparalleled mastery of magical theory and application. Dumbledore's lessons were a return to Elias's comfort zone, at first. They delved into intricate runic matrices, the vibrational frequencies of ancient incantations, the esoteric theories of soul magic, and the delicate art of intentional energy manipulation. Elias, a Ravenclaw by nature and a scholar by obsession, devoured the knowledge. He could trace the theoretical pathways of the conjunction with breathtaking clarity, explain its arcane underpinnings, and even propose refinements to the proposed spell structure. Dumbledore often nodded, a rare smile gracing his lips. "Excellent, Elias. Your mind is a magnificent instrument." But then came the practical application. Dumbledore would present a complex sequence, a dance of wand movements and spoken words designed to channel raw magical energy through a specific, controlled conduit. This was where Elias stumbled. His hand, so steady with a quill, trembled with his wand. His brilliant theoretical understanding evaporated under the pressure of execution. Spells that should have flowed like water stuttered, fizzled, or erupted into uncontrolled bursts of harmless, but startling energy. "Again, Elias," Dumbledore would say, patiently, after a particularly spectacular failure involving a minor conjuration that resulted in a shower of luminous, purple toadstools. "Feel the flow rather than force it. Your mind knows the path, now let your will guide your magic." Elias knew the path. He understood the intention. But the conviction, the raw, unshakable confidence required to project that intention, was utterly absent. His practical magic had always been adequate, never exceptional. In a duel, he relied on cunning and speed, not raw power. Now, facing the demands of the conjunction, his long-buried insecurity clawed its way to the surface. He saw the doubt in his own fumbling movements, and suspected Dumbledore saw it too. Afternoons belonged to Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Jedi Master's lessons were a stark contrast to Dumbledore's intellectual rigor. They took place in a serene, minimalist chamber, often with only the gentle hum of the sanctuary's energy and the soft whisper of Obi-Wan's voice for company. "The Force, Elias," Obi-Wan would explain, sitting cross-legged, eyes closed, "is all around us. It binds the galaxy together. To draw upon it is to become one with all life, to let go of self, and to trust." Obi-Wan taught him to meditate, to clear his mind, to sense the life force in the plants growing in a small, self-sustaining garden within the sanctuary, and eventually, to feel the presence of his mentors. Elias found it agonizing. His mind, accustomed to constant analytical thought, rebelled against the stillness. His past, a tormentor he had meticulously locked away, found fertile ground in the quiet. He would try to focus, only for vivid, horrifying images to flash before his eyes. The green light of the killing curse, the screams of his parents, the chilling laughter of the Death Eaters. "Your mind is a rushing river, Elias," Obi-Wan observed gently, opening his eyes to fix Elias with a knowing gaze. "It is full of currents, some calm, some turbulent. We must learn to navigate them, not dam them." Elias's attempts to wield the Force were erratic at best. He'd spend hours trying to levitate a small stone, only to achieve nothing but a headache. Then, in a moment of frustrated surrender, the stone might suddenly lurch violently, shattering against a wall. There was no control, no consistent connection. He was trying to will the Force, to think it into submission, rather than simply allow it to flow. His analytical mind, his greatest asset in magical theory, was a heavy anchor in the ethereal currents of the Force. "I can't do this," he muttered one evening, after a particularly disastrous session where a focused effort to calm his mind instead ended in him seeing a distorted, terrifying vision of his parents' final moments. He slumped against a cool, stone wall, burying his face in his hands. "I'm a fraud. I understand the concept of everything, but I can't do any of it. My magic is weak, my mind is a battlefield, and the Force feels like a cruel joke." Dumbledore entered, followed by Obi-Wan and, surprisingly, Luna Lovegood, who had arrived at the sanctuary a few days prior, claiming the Nargles were too agitated in the outside world. She floated into the room, her silver radish earrings bobbing, and settled cross-legged on the floor beside Elias. "It sounds like you're trying to force the river to run uphill, Elias," Luna said, her voice dreamy but clear. "Sometimes, you just need to trust it knows its own way." Dumbledore chuckled softly. Luna has a point, Elias. You possess a unique confluence of intellect and a nascent spiritual sensitivity. It is why you were chosen. But this spell, the conjunction of wills, demands more than just knowledge or even raw power. It demands balance. It requires the structured intent of magic to flow through the raw, untamed energy of the Force, guided by a mind and spirit that are in perfect alignment. One without the other is chaos. Indeed, Obi-Wan added, his voice calm. Your past trauma, Elias, is not a weakness to be hidden, but a current to be understood. Until you face the fear and anger that hold you, the Force will remain a stranger, and your magic will lack the conviction needed to channel it. Their words resonated, but the task felt insurmountable. How could he face the most painful memories of his life, memories he had spent years meticulously burying beneath layers of academic pursuit? The next day, under the watchful eyes of his mentors, Elias attempted the first true blending exercise. He was to perform a simple charm, but instead of drawing solely on internal magical reserves, he was to simultaneously reach out with the Force, using it as an amplifier, a conductor for the spell. He raised his wand. Wingardium Leviosa, he whispered, focusing on the feather before him. At the same time, he closed his eyes, trying to replicate Obi-Wan's meditative stillness, searching for the elusive hum of the Force. He felt a flicker, a momentary warmth in his chest, a sensation akin to static electricity building. The feather quivered. For a brief instant, a beautiful synergy occurred. The structured magical intent of the levitation charm seamlessly merged with the raw, lifting power of the Force. The feather rose, not with a gentle waft, but with a powerful, almost violent surge, accelerating upwards faster than any ordinary charm could manage. Then, disaster. The memories flashed, the green light, the screams, the terrifying, mocking face of a Death Eater. Elias gasped, his focus shattering. The Force energy, no longer guided by his fractured will, erupted. The feather exploded into a cloud of ash. Magical energy, no longer contained, arced wildly from his wand, scarring the stone walls with sizzling marks. The air crackled with untamed power. Elias cried out, dropping his wand, clutching his head as the overwhelming psychic and magical backlash slammed into him. He felt his knees trembling, his mind reeling. The fear wasn't just of failure, it was of the power itself, of what it could do, of his utter inability to control it. He saw himself, once again, helpless. Helpless against the Death Eaters then, helpless against his own uncontrollable power now. Obi-Wan was by his side in an instant, his hand resting gently on Elias's shoulder, a calming presence that cut through the mental static. Breathe, Elias. Be present. Feel the fear, but do not become it. I saw them, Elias choked out, tears finally breaking through his carefully constructed dam. I saw their faces. I felt everything. Dumbledore approached, his expression grave. You touched the power, Elias. Truly touched it. And in that moment, your greatest fears became manifest. The conjunction is not merely about channeling energy. It is about channeling self. Your conviction, your will, your spiritual balance. These are the true conduits. How can I have balance when I am so broken? Elias whispered, the words ragged. I stood by. I watched them die. I did nothing. The shame, the survivor's guilt, finally spilled forth, raw and agonizing. Obi-Wan knelt, his eyes meeting Elias's. You did what you could, young one. And you survived. That survival, that flicker of light, is a reason for hope, not shame. To heal, you must confront the shadows within. The Force connects us all, to the past, the present, and the future. You cannot erase what happened, but you can choose how it defines you. Over the next few days, the sessions became less about spells and more about healing. Obi-Wan guided Elias through meditations specifically designed to revisit and process his memories. It was painful, agonizing work. He relived the night of his family's murder, not as a helpless bystander, but as a witness, allowing himself to feel the grief, the anger, the terror, without letting them consume him. Dumbledore, meanwhile, provided subtle magical support, shielding Elias from psychic overload and teaching him protective incantations for the mind. Slowly, painstakingly, a shift began. Elias still felt the pain, but it no longer paralyzed him. He began to see his survival not as a mark of shame, but as a burden of responsibility, a mandate to prevent others from suffering the same fate. One evening, alone in the sanctuary's main chamber, Elias tried again. He held his wand, not gripping it tightly, but letting it rest naturally in his hand. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and allowed himself to feel the force, not as an abstract concept, but as the vibrant, interwoven tapestry of life around him. He thought of his parents, not in their dying moments, but in their laughter, their love, their hopes. He focused his intent, not to conquer Voldemort out of revenge, but to protect, to prevent, to ensure no one else felt the emptiness he had. He opened his eyes. The feather was gone, replaced by a small, uncarved piece of crystal Dumbledore had given him. He raised his wand. "Lumos," he whispered, but this time, he didn't just cast the light spell. He allowed the raw, guiding energy of the Force to flow through him, through his wand, and into the crystal. A warm, golden light erupted from the crystal, not the harsh, focused beam of a normal Lumos, but a soft, enveloping glow that pulsed with a gentle, yet undeniable power. The light didn't just illuminate the room, it seemed to resonate with the very stone and plasteel of the sanctuary, filling it with a comforting warmth. It was stable, it was controlled, and it was beautiful. Elias gasped, his eyes wide. He had done it. A small, controlled conjuration of hybrid energy. It wasn't the definitive spell, not yet, but it was a beginning. A fragile, brilliant spark of hope. He looked up as Dumbledore and Obi-Wan entered, drawn by the unusual light. Luna, too, materialized, her eyes sparkling. "Remarkable, Elias," Dumbledore said, a genuine smile on his face. "You have found your balance, if only for a moment. This is true progress." Obi-Wan nodded, a look of quiet pride on his face. "The river has found its course. But the journey is long, and the rapids ahead are formidable. Voldemort senses the stirrings of a power he does not comprehend. He will act soon. Our next step requires something more tangible, something ancient that holds immense resonance. A lost relic known as the Ethereum Locket. It is said to have the ability to focus and amplify both magical and spiritual energies, a vital component for the final ritual. We must retrieve it before Voldemort's shadows envelop it completely." Elias looked from the glowing crystal in his hand to his mentors, then finally to Luna. The flicker of confidence had ignited within him, fragile but potent. He was still terrified, but for the first time in years, he felt a purpose that transcended his fear. The path was clear, albeit fraught with peril. He was ready to face it. The chill that had settled into Elias's bones wasn't solely from the creeping autumn air that filtered into the hidden sanctuary. It was the icy grip of anticipation, a premonition of the arduous path ahead. His training had intensified, a grueling regimen that pushed his mind and spirit to their limits. Dumbledore delved deeper into the esoteric origins of the hybrid spell, detailing ancient rituals that sought to bridge the mundane and the cosmic, while Obi-Wan honed Elias's connection to the Force, teaching him to find stillness amidst chaos, to feel the silent song of life that permeated all things. Yet, despite his burgeoning understanding, Elias felt the chasm between theory and practice yawn wide. He could sense the Force, a faint hum beneath reality, and he could channel magic, but the conscious fusion, the deliberate conjunction of wills, remained elusive, a dangerous phantom just beyond his grasp. He'd experienced more than one minor accidental explosion of raw energy, leaving scorch marks on the sanctuary walls and a renewed surge of self-doubt. One brisk morning, as Elias was attempting to levitate a heavy stone with both wand and focused intent, Dumbledore cleared his throat, a sound that always signaled a shift in their plans. "Elias, Obi-Wan, Luna, there is a next step we must undertake. One that will ground our theoretical work in a more tangible reality." Obi-Wan nodded serenely. "The energies we seek to merge are potent. To ensure their stability, we require a focus, an ancient harmonizer. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled behind his half-moon spectacles. Indeed. For centuries, the existence of the Eldoria runestone has been relegated to myth, a relic whispered about in the deepest magical archives. It is said to have been forged in an age when the veil between worlds was thinner, when the raw power of creation was more accessible. A place where the subtle currents of the Force and the structured flow of magic converged naturally. Elias felt a prickle of unease. A runestone? What does it do? It doesn't do anything in the traditional sense, my boy, Dumbledore explained patiently. Rather, it is a natural conduit, a nexus, capable of aligning disparate energies without consuming them. It will act as a stabilizer, a tuning fork for the immense forces you will eventually wield. Without it, the conjunction of wills would be akin to trying to conduct a 1,000-piece orchestra with a single, frayed string. Luna, who had been listening intently, her radish earrings swaying gently, suddenly spoke. It sounds like a place where the Nargles gather, doesn't it? They always gravitate towards places where the threads of reality are a bit loose. Elias couldn't help but offer a small, nervous smile. Luna's peculiar logic often contained an unsettling kernel of truth. Precisely, Luna, Obi-Wan said, a rare, faint smile touching his lips. The runestone resonates with a very deep, very old connection to the living force. A place of natural balance. Their destination, Dumbledore revealed, was the Whispering Grove, a forgotten druidic circle nestled deep within a secluded glen in the Scottish Highlands. Tales spoke of its standing stones pulsing with residual magic, a place of immense confluence, yet it had been abandoned for millennia, its exact location lost to all but the most dedicated and eccentric scholars. The journey was swift, thanks to Dumbledore's masterful apparition, which whisked them to the edge of an ancient forest bordering the glen. As they trekked through the gnarled woods, the air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Elias felt a subtle shift, a quietening of the world around them. Even the birds seemed to sing in a lower key. Luna floated beside them, her gaze drifting upwards as if scanning for invisible creatures. The air here feels mindful, she mused, as if the trees themselves are listening. Obi-Wan closed his eyes for a moment, his brow furrowed in concentration. She is right. The Force flows strongly here, untainted by the clamor of civilization. A place of peace once. They emerged into a clearing, a vast, circular expanse dominated by colossal standing stones, gray and weathered, arranged in a perfect ring. In the very center, bathed in a shaft of weak sunlight, stood another stone, taller, broader, and unlike the others, it hummed. It was an almost imperceptible vibration, felt more in the soles of their feet than heard, yet it thrummed with a dualistic energy that made the hairs on Elias's arms stand on end. The Eldoria runestone. It was not polished or ornate, but rough-hewn, etched with faint, indecipherable symbols that seemed to glow with an inner light, shifting in intensity. Elias reached out a hesitant hand, feeling an almost magnetic pull. As his fingers brushed against the ancient surface, a jolt, not of electricity, but of pure, raw energy, surged through him. He saw a flash of ancient trees, felt the distant beat of a cosmic heart, heard a whisper of forgotten incantations. He quickly withdrew his hand, breathless. It chose you, Elias, Luna stated simply, her eyes wide. It felt your intention. Dumbledore smiled, a knowing glint in his eye. It is drawn to balance, young Elias. To those who seek harmony. Indeed, Obi-Wan added, approaching the stone with careful reverence. It senses your nascent connection to both energies. As Dumbledore began a series of intricate incantations, preparing the stone for transport, and Obi-Wan laid a calming hand upon its surface, connecting with its ancient energy, Elias stood guard, wand ready. A knot of apprehension tightening in his stomach. The tranquility of the grove felt almost too perfect, too vulnerable. Suddenly, a crack of apparition echoed through the clearing, sharp and jarring, shattering the serenity. Shadows elongated as dark, cloaked figures materialized amidst the standing stones. Death Eaters. Their skull masks gleamed ominously, wands already raised. "Dumbledore," a snarling voice cried. "Dolohov," Elias recognized from the fleeting glimpses he'd had in the Prophet. "You thought to hide your little scheme from the Dark Lord, old fool?" Dumbledore moved with surprising speed, his wand ablur. "Protego Maxima." A shimmering shield flared, deflecting a volley of curses. "Obi-Wan, Luna, protect Elias. The runestone must be secured." The clearing erupted into chaos. Green and red jets of light crisscrossed the ancient stones. Dumbledore, a dazzling whirlwind of light and power, engaged Dolohov and several other Death Eaters, his spells intricate and devastating. Obi-Wan, moving with the fluid grace of a dancer, deflected curses with a flick of his wrist, disarmed foes with unseen pushes of the Force, and sent others sprawling with precisely aimed strikes from his staff, which had materialized from thin air. Luna, surprisingly agile, darted behind the standing stones, lobbing jinxes with surprising accuracy, her voice a calm, clear counterpoint to the battle's din. Elias, however, found himself paralyzed. His mind raced, recalling every defensive spell, every force technique Obi-Wan had taught him, but the sheer, visceral terror of direct confrontation froze him. He'd practiced spells in the safety of the sanctuary, but here, with real danger, real death, looming, his theoretical brilliance withered into practical ineptitude. A particularly brutish Death Eater, whom Elias recognized as Crabbe Sr., broke through Dumbledore's outer defense, his snarl aimed directly at Luna, who was momentarily exposed as she sought cover near the runestone. "Crucio!" Crabbe bellowed, his wand pointed directly at her. Time seemed to slow. Elias saw the malicious intent, the flash of green light beginning to form at the Death Eater's wand tip. He saw Luna's wide, innocent eyes, a flicker of fear finally crossing her calm face. And in that instant, something inside Elias snapped. His family's faces flashed before his eyes, the memory of his helplessness, the searing guilt that had haunted him for years. No, not again. Not Luna. A roar tore from his throat, primal and untamed. His wand, clutched tight in his hand, felt like an extension of his very will, but it was more than just magic. A surge of raw, untamed power, a torrent of pure energy, erupted from his core. It wasn't a spell he'd learned, it was an instinctual fusion, a desperate, chaotic blend of force and magic. A blast of shimmering, volatile energy, unlike any spell Elias had ever witnessed, shot from his outstretched hand, not his wand. It was a wave of pure, kinetic force imbued with a faint, blue-white luminescence, ripping through the air towards Crabbe Sr. the Death Eater, caught entirely off guard, had barely begun his curse when the energy struck him. Crabbe Sr. was lifted bodily off his feet, flung backward with sickening force against one of the ancient standing stones. There was a dull thud, and he crumpled to the ground, unconscious, his skull mask cracked. The air around Elias crackled with residual energy, and the runestone pulsed with an answering surge. Elias stared at his hand, then at the fallen Death Eater, his chest heaving, his mind reeling. He had done that. He had done that. It was uncontrolled, terrifying, and utterly devastating. The power felt both exhilarating and sickeningly alien. "Elias," Dumbledore called out, his voice sharp but tinged with awe. "Now, quickly, secure the runestone." Obi-Wan, who had witnessed the outburst, rushed to Elias's side, placing a grounding hand on his shoulder. "Breathe, Elias. Feel the life around you. Channel that fear into focus." The remaining Death Eaters, momentarily disoriented by Crabbe's sudden incapacitation and the strange, unknown power Elias had unleashed, began to retreat. Dolohov cast one last furious curse at Dumbledore before operating away, leaving behind the unconscious Crabbe Sr. and a lingering scent of dark magic. The Whispering Grove fell silent once more, save for Elias's ragged breaths and the faint, persistent hum of the Eldoria runestone. Luna, her initial fear replaced by wide-eyed wonder, slowly approached Elias. "That was quite brilliant, Elias," she said softly, touching his arm. "You made the air sing." Elias could only stare at her, then back at his trembling hands. He had lashed out. He had fought back. But the memory of the sheer, raw, uncontrolled power that had burst from him was more frightening than any Death Eater. He had a weapon within him, a power that could save, or just as easily, destroy him. As Dumbledore swiftly encased the runestone in a shimmering, protective magical orb and levitated it, Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. He had faced the enemy, and he had unleashed a sliver of the conjunction. The taste of victory was bitter, overshadowed by the realization of the monster he might become if he failed to master the power he now knew resided within him. Voldemort had sensed something, Dumbledore was sure of it, a ripple in the fabric of magic, an unknown disturbance in the Force. The Dark Lord would be coming, and Elias had just given him a reason to accelerate his hunt. The air within the hidden sanctuary hummed with a tangible energy, a thrumming chord of ancient stone, arcane wards, and raw, unrestrained power. Deep beneath the Scottish Highlands, in a chamber carved from the earth itself and infused with centuries of forgotten magic, Elias Thorne stood at the precipice of a revelation. Runes etched into the obsidian floor pulsed with soft, cerulean light, mirroring the arcane schematics Dumbledore had painstakingly transcribed onto parchment. In the center, a circle of standing stones, each humming with its own faint resonance, converged on a central point where the very fabric of reality seemed thinner, more pliable. Weeks had passed since the skirmish in the Forgotten Temple. Weeks of grueling, mind-bending training. Elias, perpetually exhausted, bore the faint marks of spiritual strain, dark circles beneath his eyes, a nervous tremor in his wand hand that sometimes lingered even when at rest. Yet, there was also a newfound clarity in his gaze, a quiet determination that hadn't been there before. He was no longer just a scholar. He was a conduit. Focus, Elias. Obi-Wan's voice, a steady current in the tumultuous river of Elias's thoughts, resonated from behind him. Feel the Force not just within, but around you. It is the breath of all life, connecting the stones, the air, the very essence of Voldemort's fractured soul you seek to unravel. Let it flow through you, not as a torrent, but as a deep, calm river. Beside Obi-Wan, Dumbledore observed with keen, knowing eyes, his wand lightly tapping a glowing rune. And the magic, Elias, is the architect. The structure, the intent. Channel the Force, yes, but guide it with the precision of your will. This spell requires not brute force, but exquisite balance. A surgeon's touch, not a hammer blow. Elias closed his eyes, his wand clutched tightly. He extended his senses, pushing past the boundaries of his skin, past the stone walls, past the wards, reaching out. He felt the vast, complex tapestry of the Force, a living web vibrating with a million tiny lives. It was overwhelming, a cacophony of joy and sorrow, fear and hope. He wanted to pull back, to retreat into the safe confines of his own mind, but Obi-Wan's teaching echoed, "Let it pass through you, like the wind." He breathed, slowly, deeply. He found the rhythm, the pulse of the sanctuary, the steady beat of Dumbledore's ancient magic, the calming hum of Obi-Wan's presence. Then, with a grunt of effort, he began to channel. His wand flared with a soft, silver light. But it wasn't just magic. As he focused, a deep, resonant hum began to emanate from him, a sound that vibrated not just in the air, but in his very bones. The air around him shimmered, distorting like heat haze. Particles of light, like dust motes caught in a sunbeam, began to swirl and gather, coalescing into faint, ethereal strands that intertwined with the silver magic streaming from his wand tip. "Good," Dumbledore murmured, a note of triumph in his voice. "Now, the intent. The severance. The unraveling." Elias pushed harder, visualizing Voldemort's soul, fragmented, dark, clinging to life through unnatural means. He sought to create a counter-frequency, a dissonant chord that would vibrate through those fragments, loosening their hold, allowing the Force to dissipate the dark magic that bound them. The hybrid energy, now a pulsating vortex of silver and iridescent blue, roared around him. It tasted of ozone and starlight, felt like both an icy current and a raging fire. It was too much. The power threatened to tear him apart, to consume him utterly. His mind screamed, his vision blurred, and the familiar tendrils of self-doubt began to snake around his resolve. What if I fail? What if I explode? What if I become like him, a fractured ruin? Elias. Luna's voice, surprisingly clear and strong, cut through the din. She had been sitting cross-legged in a corner, sketching in a notebook, but now her eyes were fixed on him, wide and luminous. It's like a song, isn't it? If you sing too loud, you lose the melody. You must listen to the harmony. Her words, so simple, so Luna, pierced through his panic. Harmony. Not just power, but balance. He wasn't meant to simply project this energy. He was meant to harmonize with it. He needed to surrender to its flow, yet guide it with a gentle, firm will. He remembered Obi-Wan's lessons on emotional regulation, on finding stillness amidst chaos. He took a shaky breath, letting go of the desperate need to control everything. He surrendered to the feeling of the force, flowing through him like an ancient river. He let the magic structure his intent, giving shape to the boundless energy. The silver and blue light pulsed, but instead of threatening to overwhelm, it began to coalesce, to stabilize. The standing stones around him flared with intense light, and the runes on the floor blazed. A pillar of pure, hybrid energy, a swirling spiral of light and subtle, spiritual power, erupted from the ground where Elias stood. It reached for the ceiling of the cavern, silent, immense, vibrating with an almost impossible potential. Dumbledore and Obi-Wan exchanged a look, a shared moment of profound relief and deep apprehension. The conjunction of wills, in its theoretical form, was manifest. But it was still volatile, still untamed. Elias, though he had channeled it, looked utterly drained, trembling with the aftermath of holding such immense power. He did it, Dumbledore whispered, pride and worry etched on his ancient face. The conduit is stable. For now, thousands of feet above the sanctuary, in a decaying manor shrouded in perpetual night charms, Lord Voldemort writhed in impotent fury. The snake-like face was contorted, his slit pupils darting wildly. The disturbance had grown too strong to ignore. A nascent power, unlike anything he had ever felt, pulsed beneath the earth, a discordant thrum that grated against his fragmented soul. It was a threat, undeniable and horrifying. He paced the dusty halls, his dark robes swirling. Nagini, sensing his master's agitation, uncoiled from her perch and slithered close, hissing softly. They conspire, Nagini, Voldemort rasped, his voice a low, venomous growl. Dumbledore. Always Dumbledore. He cultivates something down there. A growing light that seeks to extinguish me. He had sensed it faintly at first, an unusual ripple in the magical currents, a whisper in the fabric of the force that even he could occasionally perceive. But now it was a roar, a beacon of defiance. He didn't know what it was, but its intent was clear, to destroy him. And that he could not allow. He thinks he can hide it. Thinks he can nurture it in the darkness, Voldemort hissed, a cruel smile twisting his lips. Fool. I am the darkness. I am the ultimate power. He stopped, raising a pale, skeletal hand. His mind stretched, reaching for the growing nexus of power below. He felt the ward lines, ancient and powerful, but even they now seemed strained against the rising tide of his enemy's ambition. He could sense a presence, a young, untrained mind, struggling but determined. It was a nascent force, but its potential was terrifying. Gather the legions, Voldemort commanded, his voice echoing with cold authority through the manor. Summon every Death Eater. The giants, the Dementors, the Inferi. Every servant of the Dark Lord. Today, we burn the light from the world. Today, Dumbledore's hope dies. A frantic flurry of activity began as Death Eaters, already on edge from their masters' increasingly erratic moods, scrambled to obey. Dark marks flared on arms across the land, drawing cultists and creatures of shadow towards the beacon of their master's rage. The air grew thick with oppressive magic, the very sky above the manor turning an ominous bruised purple. Back in the sanctuary, the pillar of hybrid light had subsided, leaving Elias utterly breathless, leaning heavily on his wand, his body trembling. He looked at his mentors, a silent question in his eyes. "You have done well, Elias," Obi-Wan said, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. "The path is clear. The conjunction is ready." But Dumbledore's eyes, usually so bright with mischief and wisdom, were shadowed with urgency. He stepped to a shimmering wall of ancient wards, his hand passing through the magical membrane as if to test its strength. A faint tremor ran through the stone around them. And just in time, Dumbledore murmured, his gaze distant, seeing beyond the sanctuary's protective shell. "Voldemort knows. He feels the stirrings of your power, Elias. He doesn't know what it is, but he senses a threat to his immortality." Obi-Wan's expression tightened. "I feel it too. A vast darkness approaching. A storm of rage and fear." A low, distant rumble vibrated through the earth, growing steadily louder. The gentle hum of the sanctuary's wards began to strain, shifting into a high-pitched whine. Small cracks, spider-webbing lines of nascent destruction, appeared on the ancient stones above them. Elias straightened, his exhaustion giving way to a surge of adrenaline. He gripped his wand, looking from Dumbledore to Obi-Wan, then to the terrified but resolute Luna. This was it. The moment of truth. The ground shuddered violently. A deafening roar ripped through the air, even muffled by the deep earth. The shimmering wall of wards flickered, then exploded inwards with a shower of arcane sparks. Dust and debris rained down as the ceiling began to crumble. Through the gaping hole where the wards had been, a tide of black-robed figures descended, their wands raised, their masked faces contorted in vicious glee. Above them, silhouetted against a sky choked with unnatural darkness, a figure soared, propelled by dark magic, his skeletal face a mask of triumphant malice. Voldemort had arrived. The sanctuary, once a haven of desperate hope, was now a battleground. Elias Thorne, the scholar who sought non-violent solutions, now stood face to face with the embodiment of his family's destruction, his wand blazing with a newly forged, terrifying power he barely understood. He was ready to fight or to be consumed. The ground beneath the hidden sanctuary trembled, a guttural growl that echoed through the very earth. The ancient wards, woven by Dumbledore and reinforced by Obi-Wan's subtle force energies, flared violently, shimmering like a fragile soap bubble under immense pressure. Inside, the air crackled with desperate anticipation. "They're here," Dumbledore stated, his voice calm but his eyes reflecting the emerald blasts now hammering the outer perimeter. He stood at the threshold of the primary chamber, elder wand held steady. Beside him, Obi-Wan Kenobi's stance was equally serene, his hand resting lightly on the hilt of his deactivated lightsaber, his senses reaching out. Luna Lovegood, typically found humming to herself, stood a few paces back, her expression uncharacteristically grave but resolute. She held a small, intricately carved wooden charm, humming softly, a silent prayer or a unique word of her own. "He is very angry," she whispered, her gaze fixed on the shimmering barrier. "He feels an unraveling." In the heart of the chamber, Elias Thorne was a statue of focused energy. He knelt within a vast, glowing runic circle, his eyes closed, his wand clutched in both hands, its tip barely touching a pulsating kyber crystal at the circle's center. The crystal, a gift from Obi-Wan, hummed with a resonance that Elias now felt deep within his own being. Around him, the air shimmered with an invisible confluence of power, the structured, almost mathematical flow of magic, and the vibrant, living pulse of the Force. He felt the sanctuary's defenses buckling. He felt the malicious intent of Voldemort, a cold, searing hatred that sought to snuff out all light. A wave of fear, cold and familiar, threatened to overwhelm him. My family. The faces, the screams, the helplessness. I failed them. I can't fail again. His breath hitched. The fear was a current, pulling him towards the familiar abyss of self-doubt, threatening to shatter the delicate balance he'd been so painstakingly building. Breathe, Elias, Obi-Wan's voice, calm and steady, resonated not through his ears, but directly into his mind. Feel the Force. It flows through all things, even fear. Let it pass through you, not consume you. You are a conduit, Elias, Dumbledore's voice, equally resonant, added, a faint golden light emanating from his wand even as he defended. Not a damn. Release the currents of doubt. Trust the balance you have found. Luna's soft voice, surprisingly clear, followed. You are not alone, Elias. We believe in you. The Nargles are confused by all the dark magic, but they know goodness when they feel it. Their words were anchors, pulling him back from the brink. He took a deep, shuddering breath, focusing on the vibrant warmth of the Kyber crystal beneath his fingertips, the intricate lines of the runes beneath his knees. He allowed the fear to wash over him, to acknowledge it, but not to cling. He was no longer a boy paralyzed by horror. He was a vessel, forged in the crucible of both grief and relentless study. He felt the intertwining energies within him, the crisp, intellectual structure of magic, the fluid, intuitive grace of the Force. They were no longer two separate streams, but a single, potent river flowing through his veins, through his very soul. A deafening roar ripped through the sanctuary as the main entrance imploded. Stone and wood splintered, showering Dumbledore and Obi-Wan, who stood firm, repelling the debris with elegant ease. Dark figures poured into the chamber, Death Eaters, their masked faces eager for blood. They were met by a flurry of Dumbledore's spells, ropes of fire, shimmering shields, disarming charms, and Obi-Wan's agile deflective movements, using the Force to push, pull, and disarm without needing to ignite his blade. And then he appeared. Lord Voldemort, his scarlet eyes burning with furious triumph, stalked into the chamber. He surveyed the scene, his gaze sweeping past the defending mentors, dismissing the Death Eaters already engaging. His eyes landed on Elias, kneeling within the glowing circle, and a sneer twisted his serpentine features. The brilliant Thorne, reduced to a common mystic, Voldemort hissed, his voice cold venom, playing with trinkets and silly incantations. You disappoint me, boy. Did you think your little hiding place would save you? Did you think you could escape me? Voldemort raised his wand, a crimson bolt of pure malice rocketing towards Elias. Dumbledore intercepted it with a flash of gold, but the Dark Lord was already moving, flowing past the skirmish, his focus solely on Elias. You seek power you cannot comprehend, Voldemort spat, advancing, ignoring Dumbledore's subsequent offensive. A pathetic attempt to mimic my mastery of life and death. But I am eternal. My soul cannot be touched. He laughed, a dry, rattling sound that chilled the air. I fragmented it for precisely this reason. What foolishness do you imagine could undo such perfection? Elias opened his eyes. They glowed with an intensity that surprised even Voldemort, a vibrant, shimmering emerald tinged with an electric blue. He rose slowly, his wand still clasped firmly, the Kyber crystal now pulsating with his heartbeat. The runes around him flared brighter, the ambient energy in the chamber condensing into visible motes of light that danced around him. You fractured yourself out of fear, Tom, Elias said, his voice steady, ringing with an authority he hadn't possessed moments ago. The sound of his chosen name seemed to momentarily stun Voldemort. Fear of death. Fear of being truly undone. But true power isn't in denying death. It's in understanding life and the spiritual balance that sustains it. Insolence. Voldemort shrieked, unleashing a flurry of killing curses and dark hexes. Elias didn't move physically, but the confluence of force and magic around him exploded outwards in a shimmering shield of green and gold light. The curses dissolved upon impact, harmlessly dissipating into the ether. Voldemort's eyes widened, a flicker of genuine surprise crossing his face. This was no ordinary defensive magic. It was something else, something more. You are a monster, Tom, Elias continued, taking a step forward, the glow around him intensifying. A fragmented shadow, clinging to a broken existence. The conjunction of wills will not destroy you. It will undo you. It will unravel the tapestry of your soul, thread by thread, until nothing remains but the void you so desperately tried to escape. He raised his wand. But it wasn't just his wand, it was his entire being. His left hand, open, pulsed with a pure, electric blue force energy, while his right, clutching his wand, channeled a swirling vortex of golden magical light. The kyber crystal at his feet rose, hovering, spinning rapidly, absorbing and amplifying the energies. Elias was no longer Elias Thorne, the insecure scholar. He was the eye of a spiritual storm, a living nexus of universal power. He met Voldemort's terrified gaze, not with hatred, but with a profound, almost sorrowful conviction. You chose this path. Now face its end. With a roar that was both a spell and a primal scream of will, Elias thrust his wand and open hand forward. From his very core, from the confluence of force and magic within him, erupted a wave of pure, shimmering energy. It was neither green nor gold, but a kaleidoscopic stream of light, a living current that pulsed with the heartbeat of the universe, imbued with the focused intent of wizarding magic. The conjunction of wills. It was not a destructive blast, but an invasive, unraveling force. It bypassed Voldemort's flesh, ignoring his physical form, and plunged directly into his fragmented soul. Voldemort screamed, a sound of agony unlike any Elias had ever heard, a soul-wrenching shriek that echoed with existential dread. He staggered backward, clutching at his chest, then his head, as if trying to hold his very essence together. He saw it in Voldemort's eyes, not pain, but confusion. The Dark Lord looked down at his hands as if they were dissolving, then back at Elias with dawning horror. He was being unmade. His Horcruxes, those anchors to life, were screaming too, not with the sound of a physical object being destroyed, but with the silent terror of their spiritual integrity being undone, piece by agonizing piece. The light engulfed Voldemort entirely. His form blurred, shimmered, then began to distort. His skin seemed to ripple like water, his features melting, dissolving into wisps of shadow and light. He tried to speak, but only a gurgling gasp escaped, a sound of utter despair. He fought, he thrashed, he lashed out with dark magic, but it was like trying to punch a ghost. The conjunction was operating on a plane beyond simple spells. Voldemort, the feared Dark Lord, the self-proclaimed immortal, began to fade. Not to die, but to be erased. His existence was being unwritten from the fabric of reality itself. A final, piercing shriek tore through the air, a sound of absolute, total spiritual annihilation. And then, with a final, blinding flash of pure white light that eclipsed all else, Lord Voldemort was gone. The immense power Elias had channeled receded, leaving him breathless, trembling, yet utterly, strangely whole. He swayed, feeling the world spin, the residual energy tingling through every nerve ending. The kyber crystal drifted gently back to the ground. The runes faded. The chamber was silent, save for the gasps of the remaining Death Eaters, who stared at the empty space where their master had been, their faces pale with terror. Dumbledore and Obi-Wan looked at Elias, their expressions a mix of awe and profound relief. Elias, still trembling, looked at his hands. He felt drained, yes, but also lighter than he had ever been. The weight of his past, the burden of his quest, had lifted. He had done it. He had truly done it. But even as relief washed over him, a cold sense of unease settled in. The world was safe, for now. Voldemort was gone. But what had he truly unleashed? The power had been immense, almost uncontrollable. And what else might it have affected, beyond just one fragmented soul? The silence in the chamber, the stunned disbelief of the Death Eaters, suggested that something truly unprecedented had just occurred. Elias knew, with a chilling certainty, that this was only the beginning of understanding the true impact of the conjunction of wills.